Hey everyone, welcome back to All Tommy Farms, and today we're going to be getting into a new video. And before we get into the video, please go on and click the thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel if you're new here. Let's go on and get into the video. Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Wildwoods Tommy Farms beekeeping chat, the Wildwoods beekeeping chat. Thank you all so much for joining in tonight. So the past couple of days, or really yesterday, today, at least for me, it really started today. We've been dealing with a lot of colder temperatures. I'm sure a lot of y'all northern folks are dealing with colder temperatures, but we are starting to get some of those colder temperatures, and this week it is supposed to be unusually cold. So later on I'll get into our weather and stuff like that, but of course the topic tonight isn't weather, it isn't about this cold snap, but we will talk about that too. Of course, a lot of northern folks, Tennessee, Kentucky, and I think some other states are getting as well, starting to get some winter storms and snow, ice, and they're dealing with they're running out of power, so they're having to figure out things to get their bees ready for that. Make sure they stay alive and really unbelievable cold temperatures. But we're not dealing with anything like that. We're not really dealing with snow or ice or anything like that, which I'm glad that we're not dealing with anything like that. But anyway, we'll get into some of that later. Tonight's topic is about things every beekeeper should do before spring. So this isn't to pressure anybody to doing exactly that. It's just trying to give some things of maybe what you should be doing around this time of year. That's kind of what we're talking about for tonight. So I'll be having my presentation as usual. I'll give y'all a little bit of time to join in, and then we will get started into that. So thank y'all so much for joining in. On your way in, click that thumbs up button. I appreciate y'all. I see a good amount of folks already in. We've got 10 people in. Still kind of early, so we'll give some people some time, and then we'll get into the presentation in about 5 to 4 minutes. So I see Mike, Dennis, Randy. Thanks for checking in, Randy. I see Mike, SMA. Hello from Virginia. Thanks for checking in. Rodney Middleton. Thanks for checking in, Rodney. We got Pastor Larry, Miss Jan, Miss Leona. So thank y'all for checking in. Who else? I think that's it for the time being. We have 11 people in, so we'll give some people some time to join in. Usually people join in around the center, right when I'm right in the middle of my presentation is when most people kind of get into the live stream and start talking. So so today, after the my presentation, I plan to give some updates and announcements and stuff. As y'all know, I opened up my new Etsy store. Y'all saw that. I'm sure y'all seen posts and shorts and stuff about that. So I'll talk about that later. But for now, I'm going to put as you can see in the right hand corner, that is a QR code. If you are curious what in the world is that for, you can scan it and it will take you to my Etsy shop if you want to scan that QR code, especially if you're watching on TV or maybe even on your laptop. I see Mike says we only got 12 inches of snow. I get you. That's still a decent amount. At least for us. I mean, for our standards, we don't really get much. So after my presentation, I will be answering questions. But I do see a quick question real quick. I'll answer that, and then we'll get into the presentation. So this is a pretty good question. It's kind of talking about the winter storm that I was mentioning just a little bit ago. Dennis is asking, do you think the ice storm will affect the honey crop with all the limbs breaking off? And you know what? That's a good thing that you're kind of asking there. I actually watched the video. Last couple, I think it was yesterday, I think, or maybe the day before. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was a video from Mississippi of power lines. They're getting freezing rain, ice. So there was a whole bunch of ice on the power lines, and the power lines were pretty much hanging on the ground due to ice. So if those power lines are down, of course, you most likely will think that with ice, people with these storms, ice storms, those limbs will be breaking off. Can that affect crops? Can that affect the spring? I think it can. It definitely can. I don't think it will affect it, too much, but I think it certainly could to an extent. So I think it will. I think just have to kind of watch it. We'll kind of have to listen to you guys. I'll probably ask y'all, once we get into spring, once we get some nectar flows going, ask y'all how it's going. If you're seeing any difference of if maybe the flow is not as good as it maybe was in previous years, of course, but at the same time, when we talk about that, every year is different. So some years you're not going to have a good flow, and some years you'll have a good flow. So it's kind of hit or miss. So more ice than snow in Virginia. I've been hearing that a lot about this storm, this winter storm, that there's been a lot more ice than snow. But I do think a lot of people in Tennessee are getting some snow from what I'm hearing. Trisha Sanders, lots of snow in Massachusetts. Bees look great using my thermal imager. Good to hear. Hope everybody's bees are doing well. And while we're getting into this live stream, comment in like y'all do now, and let us know kind of how your bees are doing. What are you doing to, maybe combat against these unbelievable cold temperatures? Snow, ice. Kind of what you're doing right now. It's always good to hear from you folks up north, get an idea of what you're doing. Because what I'm doing and what you're doing is two totally different things. But we still do have some cold temperatures, which I'll get into after the presentation. Hey, Lee, thanks for checking in. Good evening, everyone. Kodiak Farm Bees, I appreciate you checking in. If y'all will, on your way in, make sure to click the thumbs up button. I appreciate it. And so other than that, there's not really a whole lot else to talk about. I guess we'll go ahead and get into the presentation. I will not be really talking to the chat, answering questions. So if you have questions, I will answer them at the end of the presentation. So please do stick around. I do have a lot of other things to talk about rather than just a topic. We'll kind of talk more about this winter storm, talk about some updates from me. Maybe I'll talk about, my new Etsy shop, kind of what's going on there, what maybe some future stuff for that, and, some YouTube channel stuff, and plenty more when I'm done with my presentation. So y'all just have to bear with me for a second. I actually got here kind of late, so had to, right whenever the intro was running, I was trying to set up my my mic, so I was kind of a little late, so apologize for that. So I'm gonna get this thing set up, and then we'll get into it. There we go. Here, so tonight's topic, we're talking about getting ready for the beekeeping season. So we're talking about things you should do as a beekeeper to prepare your bees for spring, because spring is coming. It's really, really close. We're getting around that time of year. Even though right now it's super, super cold, there's still things to do right now to get ready for the upcoming season. I am so looking forward to this upcoming season. I think it's going to be a great one. I think my season last year and so far the winter has been great, smooth, and I'm really looking forward to this upcoming season. And there's a lot of things that we can do. So first, let's kind of talk about the topic, right? Getting ready for the season, for this upcoming spring. Get ready for spring, the whole season. So what are we trying to do? We're trying to prepare our apiaries. Our apiary before spring. We're setting up for strong colonies, avoiding early season problems, and starting the year with a clear plan. So, of course, we'll be talking about each one of these um, bill points throughout this presentation. So, let's kind of talk about why should we prepare for spring? Because there's nothing to do, right? Is there anything to do? Well, there's a lot of things we can do right now. We can start planning, getting ready, figuring out things we're going to do. So you may be wondering what we need to figure out. Well, we'll be talking later about that. But, IPM, mite treatments, splits, how we're going to do our splits. If you want to do a walkway split, if you want to do a Damari method and you kind of want to have things in place, at least have an idea, or write it down in your notes, or even a planner, and you can have plans for the upcoming season. Maybe have a goal of how many hives you want to get up to. Maybe if you want to backtrack a little bit, if you have a lot of hives. I know a lot of people who want to backtrack because they're growing too big, so they might have. If you're wanting to backtrack, you might want to start planning to sell nukes. So if you want to do that, you got to start promoting nukes around in your area, which a lot of people do that down here, and of course throughout the United States. So that's kind of a few things that we'll be talking about, and there's a lot more things as well. Let's talk about why preparation matters. Preparation keeps colonies healthier, stronger. It reduces pest pressure early, prevents emergency fixes later, helps bees build up faster, and leads most likely to a better honey season. So when we prep, like I talked about earlier, we're going to be prepping our colonies up to get them ready for spring. So usually around this time of the year, or not right now, it's still cold, so you can't be really doing a whole lot. And I'll be talking about like feeding some sugar syrup. You don't need to be doing that right now. But once we get into more of mid-February, late February, at least down here, I start feeding sugar syrup. And I do that to boost the bees up, get them real strong, and getting them ready for splits. And so I kind of want to talk about me for a second, and then we'll kind of talk about what you should be doing. So for kind of an example, this year, my focus, like last year, was to build up, to grow, but also maybe get some honey if possible. So I'm not really focusing on honey. I'm really focusing on building up again. Kind of what I did last year, if y'all kind of kept along with my journey with last year. So what I plan to do is build up my colonies, get them nice and strong, probably in a double deep type of colony, and then I'll split them down and make 5-frame nukes, and then I'll build those up throughout the season. So I'm building up for splits, and you can do the same, or you can build up to have an idea for honey. If you don't want to grow, if you just want to stay at a certain number, and then if you want to not split, but you have queen cells, you might also want to do a Damari split. And we're not going to be talking about that tonight because I might do that in a different live stream. But that's a certain split where you don't have to, really split the colony. It's just a different way to split. So again, preparation keeps the colonies healthier. It leads to a better honey season and helps bees build up faster and get ready for splits, the honey season, and kind of start getting ready for other things as well. All right, so we kind of got through some of the whys and stuff, but let's talk about the things that you should do before we get into the beekeeping season. So number one is the main one, a big one at least, that we need to do, and it does not incorporate checking your colonies. It doesn't incorporate opening, inspecting bees. It's basically just inspecting equipment, making sure nothing's broken, checking brood boxes for cracks. If it's rotting, you might want to throw it away. You want to check for supers and frames, make sure they're not damaged, make sure, if there are damaged, you probably want to burn those or throw them away. Maybe you could try to fix them. Maybe if it's a bottom bar, you might be able to take it off and put a new one there if you want to. You want to clean old equipment before reuse. So if you have older equipment that might have wax moth, some bad beetle stuff in it from last year, you might want to freeze that and reuse it. And a lot of people ask, is it okay to use old equipment? It's perfectly fine. I don't always freeze stuff. You don't have to freeze it, but it is a good practice to freeze. For instance, wax moth remains. A lot of times you see those webs and stuff from the wax moths, and you might want to freeze that to kill eggs from those wax moths, and you can do that to reuse it. I reuse that type of stuff all the time. Older equipment, it can come in use. It can be helpful. I use older equipment a lot, and I won't have any old equipment because I've already used it all, and I probably won't. And right now, at least, I don't have dead outs or anything like that. If I have a dead out or two, it's not good to have a dead out. Nobody likes a dead out, but one positive thing you can take away from it at least is you can use that equipment for spring. You also want to replace broken or warped frames because frames warp. Everything warps. A lot of times my lids on my nukes will warp, so sometimes I might have to replace those. And you also want to make sure lids and your bottom boards fit properly. So that's the main thing, is to inspect equipment, make sure everything's intact, make sure everything's good. And if you need to buy equipment, if you're low on equipment, you might want to check equipment to make sure you have enough equipment. Boxes, frames, supers, bottom boards, entrance reducers, stuff like that. Maybe you might want to get some feeders. Feeders are equipment, and a whole bunch of other things that we use in the bee yard. If you're running low, if you plan to increase and you expect to increase, you might want to start buying some more equipment. Or if you build equipment like I do, you can just build equipment. I build equipment a lot of times. I'll build boxes, nukes, and I plan to start selling that on my new Etsy shop, like I mentioned. All right, so number 2. So we're going to be talking about tools and supplies that you should have ready. So number 1, you want to have your smokers ready. Now that's for newer beekeepers. You want to have a smoker if you're getting into beekeeping. You want to have smoker and fuel. You want to have hive tools, and protective gear. A bee suit, gloves. A veil. You want to have feeders, jar tops, or even frame feeders, sugar and pollen patties, and extra boxes and frames. So those are the main things that newer beekeepers want to have on hand to get to this upcoming season. And I kind of want to backtrack for a second. This is for everybody. This is for intermediate. This is for new beginners. This is for everybody getting ready for the beekeeping season. So if you're a new beekeeper, you may be wondering kind of what equipment should you get. First off, you want to get protective gear. You don't want to be going out into your bee yard and not having protective gear, because a lot of people don't wear protective gear. A lot of viewers, newer beekeepers go in and say, "Oh, they're not wearing protective gear and they're not getting stung, so might as well not get protective gear and I'll be fine without it." I wear gloves. I wear a whole veil, suit, everything. I don't, don't go out into the bee yard without, that, because my bees are a little bit more spicy down here. Southern bees are a little bit more spicy, defensive than some other bees. It's just kind of the nature of these bees down here. Always have protective gear on, especially if you're a new beekeeper. Smokers, smoker fuel, all the basic stuff, boxes, frames. As you can see in the bottom right, if you need nuke boxes, that's where you can get them on my Etsy shop. I just put the picture down there on this little on these graphics. So those are the tools and supplies you need to have ready. Always good to keep things on hand. Maybe keep up. Maybe even if you want to, you can have go into your notes or a planner and have things that you might need to order, or double check that you have if you're a new beekeeper. All right, number 3, and this only goes to new beekeepers, because experienced beekeepers are most likely to build up. They're just gonna take the colonies they have and split them. That's what I do. But if you're new, you need to order your bees. Right now is the time to order them, because a lot of everything's on pre-order. You can't wait till. I guess you could wait till the last second, but then most likely everything's gonna be all up, and you're not gonna be able to find anything. So you want to be ready. So you want to go ahead and order your bees. You want to decide, do you want to get packages, nukes, or if you are indeed experienced and already have colonies, do you want to split your colonies and, grow that way? Even experienced beekeepers sometimes do buy packages and nukes. It's not rare or anything, but most times those beekeepers who are, intermediate, experienced beekeepers will split their bees and, build up that way. You also want to choose your preferred genetics. Italians, Russians, Carniolans. That depends on where you live, of course. Everything depends on where you live. Um, I can't tell you for exact areas because everybody has their own opinion, but for me, I think Italians are great for southern states. So if you're in Alabama, Georgia, Florida, Mississippi, even Louisiana, Texas, I guess you could say as well. Um, Southern states, Italians are great. Northern states, I would say Carniolans are great. Caucasians for northern states are great. Russians are good for for the southeast for all down south where we say warm, Russians and Italians are your best bet, and if you're north, Caucasians and Carniolans are your best bet. But it's also a personal opinion, and it depends on what you want, your preferred genetics, right? So you got to order queens if you need a new queen. If you need some queens for some weird reason, you need to go ahead and get ready to order those. You also want to confirm delivery dates on these bees. You also want to have equipment ready before they arrive. You don't want to, get these bees to catch you off guard. So before you buy your bees, I would recommend to go ahead and buy your equipment. Um, you'd be fine to, go ahead and buy your bees, but it's always just a safe bet just to go ahead and buy your equipment and then, order your bees. Don't wait till the last minute to buy equipment because then the bees will get there and then you won't have no equipment. Of course, if you're new, but if we're experienced beekeepers already have a whole bunch of equipment on hand most times. It just depends, I guess, really if you're a beginner, experienced, or intermediate. All that really depends. It depends on climates as well. All right, number 4. Look, we have a thing a lot of people say about no mite Monday, but I'll kind of be breaking that rule here. We'll be talking about mites for a quick second. You want to be prepare for varroa mites. Now, don't freak out or panic about varroa mites. I know they are a serious hazard, a threat to bees, but we have treatments, we have tests, we have everything that we have to deal with these mites. I think honestly, during winter, I think the biggest threat in early spring, late winter for bees is starvation. Starvation, I think, is the number one main reason why bees die. And a lot of people may think that varroa mites are actually the number one reason, but I believe that starvation, bees running out of food, is the main reason, and inconsistent temperatures with these temperatures going up and down. And it's crazy thing was yesterday the high was 70, and in like an hour or two it dropped 12 degrees and went down to 58. Now that's not freezing temperature or anything, nothing crazy, but that's how fast temperatures can drop and go up. So a lot of times, yesterday the high was 70. Well, today the high was 39. So that's a let's see what the math would be. It's about a 30, 35, 37, degree drop. And a low last night was 25. So it's really, really cold. And those are the main things that can cause for your bees to die. Not really varroa mites. Varroa mites do cause bees to die, but just not. I think starvation is part of the main issue, and then varroa mites come after. I think. Now it just depends on. I mean, you might have a different opinion. That's just kind of what I think. All right, so number one, you want to plan how you'll monitor mites. Are you going to do sugar test? Are you going to test via alcohol? Now, I'm going to mention, I'm always honest, I don't really test a whole lot. I did a lot more when I was a newer beekeeper, but right now I don't test a whole lot. And it's crazy. The thing, I know a lot of beekeepers, and they do the same thing I do. They don't really test as much as they did whenever they were newer, so I don't test as much. I do recommend testing for a newer beekeeper, but as you get more experienced, you might decide you might fade out of testing, treat, and test. You might fall out of that and just want to treat. That's kind of what I do. And testing is really, really beneficial. I'm not saying it's bad whatsoever. I think it's really, really beneficial and helpful to make sure your treatments work, to know kind of where your mite levels are. I'm just saying that's kind of what I do. So you also want to decide what treatment you'll use: Apivar, Apigard, Formic Pro, a lot of other options. You just got to decide what's best for you. Look at the labels. You can also go into forums and on here and and research kind of what temperatures work best in certain areas and regions, and also read the labels on those treatments. You also want to know when treatments are effective, because each treatment is different. I primarily use Apivar. I've used Apigar before, but I prefer Apivar. And that's I can treat that. Really, you don't want to treat it in winter, of course, but any time of the year, it's not really temperature sensitive, really. So Apivar is great for that. If you're somebody who goes up and down, and you really don't have consistent temperatures to treat with some other sensitive temperature sensitive treatments, Apivar might be a good fit. But some people do think Apivar isn't as effective because bees can the varroa mites can, get resistant against that, and that's true also. So you want to keep that in mind. You also want to be ready to act early and keep records of mite levels, when you're testing, or if you're testing, if and when you're testing. So number 5, we're going to talk about small hive beetles and pests. So on your way in, if you're watching right now, make sure to click that thumbs up button on your way in. I appreciate y'all for watching. And share the live stream out if you will. I always appreciate that as well. It really helps me out. So number 5 again is small hive beetles and pests. So you want to have beetle traps ready. You want to have what you want to you have a beetle beetle baits, a lot of different traps that are out there on Man Lake and other websites and stuff. You want to keep your apiary clean and dry. Avoid leaving, exposed comb out. I sometimes do leave exposed comb out. I've experienced some times where beetles will get into it, not all the time, but just avoid it as much as you can. The best you can. If you have somewhere where it's, a dry, clean area where you can put your comb at, that's great. If you don't, sometimes you have to leave it outside. It just depends on what your situation is, of course. You want to reduce space in weak hives. That's the biggest one. If you have a weak, small colony, don't leave it in like a double deep or something. Just reduce it as much as you can. Watch for early infestations. Beetles cause big problems. They don't kill colonies. They don't. What causes small hive beetles a lot of times come after bees die. A lot of times you'll see these slime outs after. But what they can cause is the main thing they cause. They don't cause bees to die. They cause them to abscond. Whenever there's a bad problem in your colony, and these beetles get out of control and they start sliming the colony, we call those slime outs. The bees will abscond. They won't die. They'll abscond. That's the main issue. And the reason, and what I'm saying, and the way I'm saying that, with clarity, is because I've had it happen firsthand. They didn't kill my colony. It was a bad slime out. It was gross. These slime outs with these beetles and this larva is terrible. It didn't kill the bees. They just unfortunately left. They absconded. And you maybe wonder, what does absconded mean? If you're a new beekeeper, it just means that they left. And they left most times for a reason. Small hive beetles, and sometimes maybe if they're hive of their location, they don't really like it, and they want to abscond. A lot of reasons, but that's a main one. Small hive beetle slime outs. They cause a problem for sure. I've had problems with them down here. I think 2023 was one of the worst times for those slime outs, because I had a lot of them that year. A lot of problems. All right, number 6, early season feeding. So right now, of course, you don't really, feed sugar syrup. It's too cold. It causes condensation, and it's too cold for the bees to even go up there and get it. So that's useless this time of year. Right now, what you need to be feeding, because it's still the middle of winter, and we're talking about it may be in a month. I'm not talking about right this second. This video right here. This video is honestly valid probably for another month. So I'm just kind of go ahead and starting to produce some of these getting ready for spring videos. But here soon, in the next couple of weeks, when we start getting more warmer, I will be starting to be feeding some sugar syrup. I will be. A lot of other southern beekeepers will. And a lot of southern beekeepers will already be starting to split bees. It's crazy how fast they'll split them down here. Very, very early. So, you want to check winter food stores, and number 1, if it's cold, don't inspect your bees. What you want to do is lift the hive feel the weight. That's the main thing to do, and I've talked about that a lot before. Feel the weight. If it's heavy, great. If it's kind of light, you might want to put some fondant on. This time of the year, fondant, hard candies are great. Pollen patties are okay, but right now your bees don't really they don't need pollen right now. They need carbohydrates, and they can get that from fondant, from hive alive, from maybe even just sugar fondant. So they get that from hard candy fondant, and you can still feed pollen patties this year, but pollen patties are kind of better for late winter, early spring, because those pollen patties, pollen is what kind of gets the bees rolling with brood. Whenever you feed pollen, whenever the bees are bringing natural pollen in, you're going to start noticing the bees are starting to brood up, and that's what pollen does. And pollen patties, will help boost your bees up late winter, early spring. Don't overfeed strong colonies, and you want to feed smaller, weaker colonies first. So if you have a small, weak colony, you want to feed them. Make sure they have enough food, especially early on. You want to build that colony up. I've had a lot of small colonies before, and I'm able to build. You can build them up, even though if they're small. As long as you feed them, put some pollen patties on, and natural pollen and nectar will do it just fine as well. You can build them up and get them ready for spring. Small colonies, sometimes you might not get a whole lot of honey. You might get a little bit, but you'll still get a little bit, but maybe not as much. But you can build them up and get them ready for spring, and they'll do you good. Even though they may look small, they'll build up quickly. I can assure you that they will build up quickly if you feed them sugar syrup in late winter, early spring. And why I'm saying that is because that's usually when it starts warming up. You don't want to be feeding in midwinter. Right now, it's kind of mid to getting close to late winter, but for at least for us, not for you northern folks. You're in the middle of winter right now. I'm not though. And that's the problem, honestly, folks. Whenever you're listening to me, I kind of want to make it clear. It depends on climates. Everything I do might not always be what you need to do. So a lot of times it's just kind of how it is. Climate is important. Number 7, you want to be ready for swarms. Look, I know it may seem like swarm season is far out. I mean, there's nothing to do right now. We don't need to be getting ready for swarms, but there's some things we can do. So number 1, we want to have extra boxes ready if we want, just in case if we start getting a whole bunch of swarms. A good amount of them. You want to have extra boxes ready. You want to set up swarm traps. This time of year is a perfect time to start getting stuff like that ready, even though it's super early. Last year, I set up some swarm traps like in February, I think, maybe even late January, and they caught a swarm. So it's always good to have them out there for a little while, even if it's late winter. Even this time of year, you can go and start getting them ready. Or if you want, it's not no rush. You might want to wait till late February, mid-February. That's fine as well. Just kind of keep that in mind. Eventually, you want to start setting up some swarm traps if you're kind of interested in catching some swarms. Also want to plan possible splits because you'll be getting ready for swarm season, and that doesn't mean just catching swarms. That means preventing your own swarms from your own colonies. If you're not able to prevent every swarm, it's okay. You don't have to prevent every swarm. I mean, a lot of people, new beekeepers, are sometimes get upset because they weren't able to prevent a swarm. No biggie, it's fine. It's not really a big deal. But the main reason why we prevent swarms in the first place is to try to save bees. And I'm not saying that the bees are going to die or anything, but I'm just saying that we can kind of keep all those bees and instead create 2 colonies instead of losing half the bees, them creating their own colony somewhere else. We're not able to, harvest honey or anything like that and, use those bees. Instead, we only have our upper half of the colony, which is still fine, but that's the main reason why we prevent swarms. But also, let's kind of give, what are some pros? I think the main thing, like the positive of maybe letting a swarm go by itself, with losing a swarm, is that's actually kind of a natural requeening. Every year, a lot of beekeepers requeen every year. If you lose a swarm, that is honestly a natural requeening. Yes, it's really what it is. It's a natural way of requeening your colony. If you requeen your colony every year, if you're more experienced beekeeper, kept bees for a longer period of time than newer ones. You want to add space before bees get crowded. And look, even if you add space, that doesn't necessarily mean that your bees are not going to swarm. Bees are going to swarm when they want to swarm. I mean, there's no, because that's just natural instinct. That's just what they're going to do. There's nothing you can really do to make them not want to swarm, because they're always really going to want to swarm. It's just kind of how bees are, and it's just kind of the natural way of things. So there's that, but you can also add space, which can help. Kind of help them prevent swarms, but won't really necessarily do that. Also, you want to watch for swarm signs. So once you get more into spring, early spring, watch for swarm cells, swarm cups. Even if they're not loaded with a larva, you still want to know, okay, I saw a queen cup. They may be kind of, in the next couple of weeks getting ready for swarms. So I might want to keep in mind, check every 2 weeks, every 1.5 week to make sure there's no swarm cells, so you can make a split if you see those cells. All right, number 8, you want to have an inspection plan. So you want to schedule first spring check. Of course, number 1, the main things when do you want to inspect your colony in spring? Is there a certain day in the month? No, there's not a certain day in the month. There's not a certain month to inspect your bees. For me, I'm probably going to do my first spring inspection probably sometime in mid-February to late February. Those are when I start my inspections. For northern beekeepers, they probably start them like late March, April, mid-April. Sometimes is when they start inspecting their bees. Just depends. You also want to keep simple hive notes. You also want to track your queen performance. You want to make sure your queens are good. Watch brood patterns. Make sure if you need a new queen, you might want to requeen your colony once you get more into spring, whenever you have drones and you can do some natural requeening without buying a queen. Or you can buy a queen. Just depends on what you want to do. And also record feeding and treatments. So, so if you're testing, you want to keep up with that, your mite loads, and then treat and see after those treatments that mite load, and you can compare, see if there's a difference, if the treatment worked, or if it wasn't effective, or if it was effective. So have an inspection plan, have notes. You want to keep notes, and you don't have to have a inspection form or even a notebook in person. You can just on your notes, the Apple Notes or whatever phone you might have or whatever you have that with notes, you can just go in there and kind of put it in there as well. That works as well. All right, number 9, which is really important. This is the most important thing. I know everything else was important, really, really important for getting ready for spring, but this might be one of the most important. Local conditions. Local conditions are probably that's what I always refer to, is it depends on your climate. How many times in these presentations when I go back and say it depends on your flow, it depends on your local condition, it depends on your temperatures, it depends on your climate, it depends on where you're at. So number 1, you want to know your nectar flow timing. You want to know when things are supposed to start. Like for me, privet usually starts in March, mid-March. Somewhere around that time, I start watching out for it. That's when privet starts, and then tallow will start around maybe early April, mid-April, and last till about May. And sometimes it starts even late April, early May. It's not always the same, but it's just kind of around that time of year, because I just kind of always happen to notice when it starts to bloom, and always kind of keep track of it. And this year, I might even pay more closely attention and see exactly when it starts to bud, and I'll write that date down. Excuse me. Also, importantly, you want to watch temperature swings. Just because you have a week of warm temperatures, even right now, it's really important right now, and early spring, in March, around Easter, you want to watch those temperatures. Swings can happen, and you can have some cold snaps. We usually have a cold snap, usually around Easter. Anytime around there, we have a little cold snap. You always got to watch that. Make sure your bees aren't low on food, because they might have been a week or two with it being warm, and they might have been flying around looking for nectar. You might have a couple things starting to bloom, and then bam, you have that cold snap. So you want to watch for that as well, for those temperature swings, inconsistent temperatures, especially in winter. But early spring, you can see some cold snaps here and there. Also, adjust feeding to your area, wherever you're at. You just want to adjust feeding to whenever fits your area, temperatures, your climate. Also want to plan around rainfall patterns. So a lot of times you might have some thunderstorms, rain, spring. I mean, that springtime is a lot of times whenever you get some storms. Most times more into summer as well. But you still have some occasional storms, and you also kind of want to make sure you're not inspecting bees when it rains, because sometimes bees can get agitated when it's raining, especially cloudy and thunderstorms, severe thunderstorms, anything like that. Also follow local bloom timing, like I kind of mentioned earlier. Kind of follow those whenever your plants or flowers start blooming. And keep track of that. And I just find kind of interest in that as well. All right, preseason checklist. Here's things that you kind of need to kind of have on your mind at this moment. Equipment ready, bees ordered. You want to have feed on hand. You want to have some ideas for treatments. Maybe have them planned. If you want to use a calendar. Now, bees don't follow a calendar. It's just not how it works. Bees don't know a calendar, but it's always good to kind of have a calendar if you want to. Always beneficial. Just don't always be set on your calendar that this day is going to be the exact day whenever such and such is supposed to happen, because not always. And when we talked about that, most times, for whenever your flowers and stuff are supposed to bloom. And you also want to have extra boxes available just in case if you have a swarm call, or if maybe you want to catch some more swarms, or if you start growing at a fast, consistent rate and you didn't expect it. So it's always good to have some extra stuff on hand. All right, so that is it of the presentation. So thank you for watching the presentation. And I'm not going anywhere. We got 18 minutes left of this chat. This presentation went by pretty quick, but it's only it's actually 6:42. So it's not a whole lot of time left for tonight. So I'm gonna go into questions. I see a couple questions right now on my thing. I'm gonna go back into the comments and look at what you're all talking about. If y'all will, on your way in, make sure, don't forget, click that thumbs up button, y'all. That helps my live streams out a ton. And that's the main way you can support me, is to click that thumbs up button and subscribe if you haven't already. All right, so let me go back and start some questions real quick. And put them in my star them, and then I will answer them in a second. But what I kind of want to go over, I have a couple things to go over that I kind of want to talk about. I see Keith, thanks for checking in, Keith. I see Tim and Hannah, Gunline Bees, thanks for checking in. I appreciate you. Russell Amon, thanks for checking in, Russell. Kid Garden 100. Hey guys, thanks for checking in. A new person, new face. Thanks for checking in. I appreciate you. Let's see here. I think that's about it. Yep, that's it. That's all the way back to the top. I also see Brian Bennett. I see Brian, Flower Street Farm Bees. Thanks for checking in, Brian. Good to see you. Hello all. Very brr here in 14 inches of snow. Yep, I know a lot of you northern folks getting some snow, getting some ice. I've heard a lot more things about ice than snow. Maybe people getting more problems with ice, but hope everybody's doing okay up there. I know a lot of people up there are running out of power. Power's out for a lot of people. All right, so I'm going to go through these questions. Thanks, Grayson. Great job. Thanks, Brian. Oh, I see. Richard, Bee Collector Rick. Thanks for checking in, Richard. Well, I already answered that question, but I'll answer it again since we have more folks in. Dennis earlier was asking, do you think the ice storm will affect the honey crop with all limbs breaking off? I answered that earlier, but I think it can. Y'all leave y'all's opinions in there. What you think could the ice storm affect honey crops? With all the limbs breaking off, and the limbs will break off because I saw a video from Mississippi. About, it was just kind of a little shorter video or whatever, and it showed all the power lines. It was like ice all over the power lines. It was so heavy it drug every single in between the poles. All of them were hanging down. So that ice storm seemed to cause a pretty big impact over there in Mississippi and everywhere else. Question, Grayson, you gonna do any queen rearing this year? I hope so. I'm not really sure. Can't really answer that right this second. I plan really to do a lot more like building up. It just depends on kind of how all the bees look coming out of winter, because I really same thing last year. I kind of talked about whenever I was talking about preparing for getting ready for the season, and y'all are asking me my goals and stuff. I said it last year, and probably same thing this year. It just depends kind of how all the bees look, how strong they are. I plan very very soon. Once it starts to warm up, I'm gonna be getting ready to build them up and get them ready for getting ready for spring. So it just depends. I do think I might. We'll see. I do have all the things to do that, so I can. Because I actually ordered all that stuff like a couple years. I think like a year ago or something like that, maybe 2 years ago. With the queen rearing equipment. All right, let's talk about weather. Um, so I'm put that on full screen. I guess that's all I can do. So today it doesn't really show the high. The high today was like 39, 38 degrees. So today, not really a good day to go outside. I was outside a little bit doing stuff out there, but pretty cold. Have to wear um pants, shirt, excuse me, a jacket, stuff like that. Stay warm. It's pretty cold outside. Bees right now all clustered up. They didn't break cluster today. I mean, it was like 38 degrees. The low is gonna be 17. Pretty cold tonight. If you see that whole week of weather, we're supposed to be cold. Tomorrow the high's 44. Gonna get down to 24. The high on Wednesday is gonna be 47. The low is actually gonna be 26. Pretty cold, under freezing again. Thursday the high is gonna be 50. The low is gonna be 29. The high Friday is gonna be 23. Excuse me, the high Friday is going to be 46 and the low will be 23. Saturday, the high will be 39, pretty close to today. The low will be 20. Actually, I thought today earlier, I think it said 18, but it might have went up 2 degrees. Still cold, under 32, freezing temperatures. Bees will be clustered. Sunday, 40, very cold. 40 degrees is cold for us. Low is 22. High Monday is going to be 46. So from a week from today, the low will be 25. And then Tuesday next week the high will be 49. And the low will be 38. So the low won't be as bad, but still will be kind of cold. So okay, I kind of want to have some other stuff to talk about. Some exciting things going on here at Wildwoods Honey Farms. I kind of talked about it. Let me kind of get a picture up so I can kind of present. I gotta look for it real quick. Let's see, go to my finder. So, as y'all know, if y'all been seeing my stuff lately about me talking about everything, I was recently made up an Etsy shop. So, I'm now selling stuff on Etsy if maybe you're curious. So I'll pop it up right there. It's called Wildwoods Honeybee Co. So the CO means company. And you may be wondering why is it named that instead of Wildwoods Honeybee Farms. Well, simple kind of answers. The titles on Etsy, they only allow it to be a certain number, so you could have had to kind of figure out something different, and I think that's the next best thing. So if you want to, I will leave a link in the description below. I think I also have a pinned comment with the link if you want to check it out. You don't gotta order anything or anything like that, but you might want to check it out. You might see something interesting you might be interested in. I plan to add more listings and stuff like that. In the next coming days and weeks. I'm really looking forward. I think it's a good thing. I have let's see what I got on there. I got hats, honey, my honey from down here in southeastern Alabama. That's the link right there for y'all if you're interested in it. You might want to check it out. Got mugs, 5-frame nukes, which I build 5-frame nukes. I talked about it earlier that I build a lot of my equipment and I really enjoy it. I talked about that earlier in the presentation. I actually had a picture of one of my nukes on there, and it's there's for sale on there. Actually, somebody bought one recently, and actually already have it ready. Actually, that's what I was doing today outside. I was actually painting it. You have 2 options on those nukes. I think it's like white and unpainted. It's just whatever you prefer. White looks good. A lot of people like white. I might add some other colors as well if you're interested. I don't know. Just whatever you whatever people like for colors. But for now, those are the two options. And then of course honey. I mean I'm sure most of y'all have your own honey and stuff, but I just decided to put that on there for the time being, just or for the whole thing. But just in case if y'all might want to try some of my honey and compare it to yours and see what maybe might be the difference. Best of luck with the business, Grayson. Thank you, Brian. Appreciate it. So there's that. That's kind of one thing I kind of wanted to talk about for a split second. I'm really looking forward to continuing that. Put some more listings on there. I have a lot more ideas of like some wooden stuff, some building stuff that I like to build. I plan to put some like wooden candy boards. I built some wooden candy boards and some recently. I think that I use over winter, and I plan to sell some as well. I first got to build one for pictures, because got to take pictures for it, and then you'll see it maybe in the next couple of weeks. So there's that. So the link for it right there is Etsy shop. You can click that, or people have been asking where the links and stuff. A couple of people, so I'm trying to make it as what do you call it? As available as possible if you're curious of the link. So to find the link, you can on my live streams. I'll promote it, of course. I'll promote everything, of course. You can see it on the right corner there, that little QR code. That QR code takes you to the Etsy shop, and you also can find the Etsy link in my About section of my YouTube channel. You can also find it in descriptions and stuff like that, and on posts and shorts. So if you have any more questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I'll answer those. We got about 8 more minutes till we'll kind of wrap things up for tonight. If y'all will, click the thumbs up button on your way in. I appreciate y'all joining me and supporting what I do. It's always appreciated. It's starting to get some more viewers watching the live streams than maybe in December. And I noticed that a lot of times. It's like once we get into the bee season, we start to see a lot more folks starting to kind of get right back into it. A lot of times people take kind of a little break off, kind of enjoy themselves. That's kind of what I do too. I do that as well. I don't watch as much videos like long forms. I watch a lot more live streams. That's what I keep up with the most. I can't watch every single video because it's just so tough to watch all the videos. I mean, I haven't uploaded the video for about a month. It's just always tough to catch those. I just try to catch as many live streams as I can. That's what I usually do this time of year. And then I'll watch some videos once we get into the bee season. That's what I do as well. Hey, Jeff. Jeff Christo 6774. Thanks for checking in. Appreciate you. Grayson, where do you buy your bee equipment from? Well, I build a lot of my equipment. A lot of times I build some of my equipment, and I haven't built my equipment for long enough to replace everything in the BR. Most everything in the BR is not my equipment, but I do build equipment. So I will start as that old stuff gets old and maybe even starts to rot and stuff. I'll replace it with stuff that I build. Everything that's actually in the BR right now, all the boxes and equipment, a lot of that stuff is from Man Lake, and a lot of it's just been kind of collected over the years from buying bees from people. A lot of it is. Let's talk maybe some other equipment than boxes, like frames. Oh, I do want to talk about frames real quick for people. Kind of goes with this topic, getting ready for spring. I love Premier Bee products. I don't know if y'all know who those are. Most of y'all know who they are. Premier Bee products. Their frames. I really like their frames. The bees love the frames, and they do really, really well. That's where I get the frames from. I don't build my own frames. All I build is boxes, nukes, sometimes candy boards, and nuke boxes, and 10 frame boxes and stuff like that. I sometimes even I'll build lids. I use like a lot of times migratory lids. I build for nuke boxes or migratory lids. I might start make some telescoping covers. I like telescoping covers for my bee yard. That's what I mainly use. I don't really have any migratory covers, but I do use them, for my nukes. What else? That's about it. I buy my frames from Premier Bee Products. I actually bought some recently last year, and the bees never used it because I was kind of in a drought. So I just kind of put them up. They're actually in my storage room right now, a little section of our house, and then I plan to use them in spring. G3GS Farm, hey, Wildwoods Beekeeping, thanks for checking in. Appreciate you. Well, y'all, if y'all, what else? Let's see. I think that's about it of everything I kind of was going to talk about on here. I was going to talk about our weather, talk about the Etsy shop. I think that's about it of everything I was going to kind of wanting to discuss after the presentation. So if you have any final questions, feel free to put them in there. We'll be, I'll be wrapping up here about 5 minutes and 4 minutes, somewhere around there, and get out of here. But if you have any final questions, I'll answer them. Supposed to have pretty cold weather this upcoming week. Like I mentioned just a little bit ago, showed you all the temperatures. I'm going to have to deal with pretty cold temperatures. Bees are great. If y'all curious how the bees are doing, all 13 colonies are still alive. Well, at least from last time I checked them, because last time I checked them was like last week. This year, I've found that this year was really, really good, and I haven't really been messing with them. I just haven't opened them much, and the times I've opened them was just to put food in and check on them here and there. I plan to go out there maybe tomorrow or maybe sometime this week or maybe even next week and just kind of peek in, make sure they're all okay, check their food, the top food, make sure nothing's gone, make sure everybody is good. So I will do that soon. I'm gonna go back up into the comments, make sure I didn't miss anything. Any questions? If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comment section. I'm just kind of right now going through comments, making sure I didn't miss any because I was kind of scrolling very, very fast earlier. Nice presentation, Grayson. Catch you next time. Thank you very much. I think this is a very important topic to talk about for everybody. Getting ready for the upcoming season. It'll be here before we know it. I know it's still cold outside. We're all dealing with cold temperatures, and it doesn't feel like it's gonna be here soon, but it will be before we know it. I'll tell y'all, every day goes by fast. I mean, last year went by fast. I mean, the whole year, unbelievable how fast it came, and went. All right, so I guess we'll kind of go ahead and kind of start wrapping things up. I appreciate y'all so much for joining in and talking. Joining in. I appreciate y'all. And if you're interested on your way out, the Etsy shop link is right there. If you want to check it out, see kind of if there's anything you like, or just check it out. Maybe if you've ordered already, I would appreciate if you could leave a review once you receive your package. I mean that pretty much reviews and likes do the same thing. It just kind of helps get the videos and the listings out there. It helps with the algorithm and everything. So I appreciate that. And I appreciate you all watching. On your way out, click that like button, subscribe to the channel. Everybody stay warm. It's going to be cold for the next couple of days, all week, this week, and a lot of next week's supposed to be really, really cold. So we're going to have to kind of hunker down. And I'll probably be back next week. So I'll see y'all next week. I'll figure out some topic. So thank y'all so much for watching, and we'll catch you next time. Good night, everyone.